Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to some more Anthem news, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Javelin customization, personalization, pilot levels. We're going to be talking about Rarity, components, and inscriptions, and pretty much everything you need to know about Javelin progression and gear customization in the game, so that when the game hits the market on February 22nd, you guys know how to customize your Javelin and how to develop your own playstyle. So let's jump right in. So as you guys probably know, I'm a huge fan of action RPGs. The original Mass Effect series was one of my favorite series of the last generation, and I've been covering Fallout 76 for the past few months, and now that we are really close to Anthem being released, I really want to start covering some more Anthem news. I was lucky enough to get into the closed alpha. I can't actually talk about it just yet because I'm under NDA, but I will definitely share my thoughts with you guys as soon as I can. But today it's not the day, boys. Today we're going to be talking about pretty much everything you need to know about the Javelin progression. So if you guys are not aware, there was a developer live stream a couple of days ago. It's a 1-hour live stream, and if you guys don't have the time to actually go through just sitting for 1 hour listening to everything that they have to say, I have compiled pretty much everything that they explained during that live stream, so you don't have to sit through 1 hour of just footage there. And hopefully I'll be able to deliver this in a reasonable time frame. So first of all, you need to understand that yes, Anthem is an action RPG, so there's a lot of customization involved. They basically classify the customization in two different segments. They have customization, which affects gameplay, and then they have personalization, which affects your looks. So basically your appearance and your performance are completely detached from each other. You are not bound to a specific look if you choose a specific type of gear. So that's awesome, because too many times we have seen gear that is attached to a specific texture or color scheme or color palette. And the fact that right off the bat we know that we can customize our look without affecting gameplay is pretty much awesome. Now the second thing that you need to understand is that the leveling system revolves around the pilot and not the Javelin. So the Javelin doesn't actually level up, it's your pilot who levels up. So if you guys are not aware, the Javelin is basically this exoskeleton, this robotic armor that we have seen in all the promotional materials. So as you progress through the levels and through the game, what's gonna level up is your pilot. You can change your Javelin at any point, but your pilot is gonna keep the same level that you have at whatever point, right? So that of course doesn't mean that the Javelin doesn't play a role here. Of course the Javelin is essential to the game, and the way it works is your Javelin is basically your armor, and you have 5 equipment slots that you can use for different items. You have 2 weapons, you have a rear mounted cannon, and you have a component slots and support gear slots as well. So basically all the customization that's available is centered around these 5 equipment slots, but it gets much deeper as you try to customize and sort of like fine-tune your stats to fit your playstyle. So for instance, the weapons are particular to your Javelin, so certain Javelins can have certain weapons. In this case, for instance, the ordnance launcher is particular to the Colossus, which is the largest, sturdiest Javelin of all. It's kind of like your tank party member, the Colossus. And so far we have 4 Javelins. We have the Ranger, we have the Colossus, we have the Interceptor, and we have the Storm. And each one of these Javelins have specific weapons that they can equip. So as you progress through the game, you're gonna get loot drops, and these loot drops are gonna be weapons, or they're gonna be items that you can collect. And obviously the loot rarity depends on your level. So as you level up, you're gonna be able to get better and better loot. So it's sort of like a high risk, high reward situation. If you play higher difficulty missions and if you play in a higher difficulty, you're gonna get better loot, and that's just a basic progression mechanic right there. And they classify the loot rarity into 4 different categories. They have common, uncommon, rare, and epic. Epic being the best one, of course, and each one of these categories have like certain bonuses that are applied to the item itself, and we're going to be talking a little bit about this when we get to inscriptions. But so far all you need to know is that there are 4 different categories for the basic progression, and then you have what is called masterwork and legendary categories, which are the top power level rarities that are in the game, and they come with some special properties. So they are basically the end game OP type of loot drops that you would consider kind of like top tier, right? Obviously, your drop rates depend on your level, so you need to be a high level pilot in order to have a chance at getting these items. And of course, I'm gonna talk about the special properties that the masterwork and legendary items have, but before we do that, we need to cover weapon stats, combo systems, and pickup radius. So basically, the weapon stats is what you would expect from any RPG. You have damage, you have recharge, and you have the fire status. So this is the new component in terms of stats. Fire status, I'm sure you guys haven't heard this before because this is something that they just invented right here. And basically what it means is how long does it take you to apply a status effect onto the enemy. So for instance, if you have fire damage, this stat basically tells you how long you have to fire at an enemy in order to apply the status effect. Now, of course, the damage, recharge, and fire status is going to depend on the weapon's level. So if you have, I don't know, an uncommon or rare weapon is going to be way better than a common one. And of course, once you introduce status effects, then you can introduce combo systems as well. So basically, while you have a status effect applied on an enemy, you can use a different weapon to trigger a combo while that status effect is present, and each javelin has a different combo, so it basically encourages you to use different weapons to basically maximize the damage that you can do at any given point. And at this point, I think we need to go into pickup radius. So a pickup radius is basically what they call an inscription, and an inscription is basically a fancy way of saying a bonus. So depending on the loot rarity, each item can have up to 4 different inscriptions, so 4 different bonuses that affect gameplay in some way. So you can have a bonus that adds damage, maybe another one adds an utility, for instance, more ammunition. Maybe one allows you to hover and use your flight system more often. Maybe it reduces your cooldown time. I don't know. There's a lot of different bonuses that you can get, and the inscription is basically a random roll that you get when you get the loot drop. So for instance, you can get the same gun 10 times, but the bonuses are gonna be different. The inscriptions are gonna be different. So there's the possibility that throughout your play session, you might get the same gun, I don't know, 3 times, but the bonuses are gonna be different. So you're gonna be encouraged to basically just choose the one that adapts better to your playstyle, and then you can salvage the others. You can turn them into crafting items that you can then use to craft your own weapons. So if, for instance, there's an assault rifle that you want, but you haven't been able to get a loot drop for it, you might get a blueprint instead, and then you can salvage all the weapons that you're not using and use those crafting materials to actually craft it yourself. And the good thing about these blueprints is that they're not attached to your level. So if, for instance, at level 5 you get a blueprint, and then, I don't know, 10 levels afterwards you want to craft this gun, the gun that you craft is gonna be your current level. It's not gonna be attached to the level that you were when you actually got the blueprint itself. So the crafting system is certainly a surprise, but a welcomed one. However, they did mention that this is sort of like an additional feature. Throughout the game, your main source of items is going to be loot drops from killing enemies. So on that note, however, I do have to say that the game does not have any sort of trading, so you cannot trade with your friends or anything like that. So anyway, so far we have covered Javelin customization, personalization. We have covered the pilot leveling system, loot rarity, and the different categories within it, weapon stats, combo systems, pickup radiuses, and inscriptions, which are the bonuses, in-game crafting, and blueprints. And now we're gonna talk a little bit about components. So components are basically another way to tailor and customize your playstyle. So it's just another layer of customization on top of the previous 4 equipment slots that you had available. So you chose your weapons based on the rarity and damage and inscriptions that better fit your playstyle. You chose your javelin, you chose your utility slots, maybe some bonuses affect your utility, maybe you have a lower cooldown time, higher melee damage, I don't know, whatever you want to focus on, right? The components now add another extra layer. So for instance, you might choose a component that increases all blast damage. So if you really enjoy a playstyle that is focused on explosive damage and crowd control, you might choose this component right there. There's also a component for utility. So for instance, you might get more ammunition for your weapons. So if you have, I don't know, a minigun that burns through ammunition real quick, you might want to get this component. You can get one for longer flight time. You can get one for elemental damage. There's a lot of customization that you can add on top of the previous decisions that you made. And on top of this, the components also have inscriptions themselves. So if you guys remember what I said, the inscription is a random roll, it's randomized. So once you get a component, it brings an extra layer of customization, right? The component itself increases damage for explosions, for instance, but the component itself has another bonus. For instance, it might say if you get 3 kills from 1 explosion, it regenerates your shields or something like that. So all of these systems sort of like stack on top of each other. So for instance, you might have a weapon with an inscription that increases your explosion damage by 5% and a component that has another inscription that also increases your explosive damage by, I don't know, 10%. So it stacks and now you'll get a 15% bonus to explosion damage. So all of these systems really allow you to customize your playstyle and just go as deep as you want to create those synergies between the different components. Now, finally, the gear score is just basically the addition of all the weapons and gear that you have in your loadout. So each piece of gear has a value assigned based on its rarity, and then you add all of these up and that creates your gear score, which is used for basically determining how hard your enemies are going to be and what missions you can do and all of that good stuff. And on a side note, if you're playing in multiplayer, the damage that you do and that you receive from enemies is relative to your gear score and your level. So you might be playing with another friend that is a higher level than you, but the enemies are not gonna basically destroy you because you're playing with that guy. The damage that you get is gonna be relative to your level. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope I was able to shed some light on how the Javelin progression is gonna work once the game goes live on February 22nd, and hopefully a lot of you guys will use this as a tutorial before you start the game. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, remember to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.